Great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar sponsored Tech. My name is Aaron Niemeyer. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by John from the Novutech team. John, if you want to maybe introduce yourself very quickly.
Hello, everyone. Some of you might have already seen me in previous webinars given by Novutech as well. I'm representing Novutech and the whole connector part from Invopop to NetSuite. So I'll be happily going to present to you the solution today as well.
And this webinar will be recorded, so there will be a link for that to view in other moments. But for those of you that are joining us live, I do want to just give everyone time to join. That's point number one. And point number two, I want there to be some type of interaction with our audience today. So let's get the ball rolling and just ask a few initial questions. The first question being, are you or do you feel that you are prepared for this upcoming legislation change in France? Let's give three possible answers. Yes, I feel prepared and I know all of the legislation and what it involves. I'm almost there. I feel quite confident in the progress that I'm making, or not at all. I do feel quite lost with this upcoming change. If you can maybe go to the comment section and just write a quick response to that question, that would be phenomenal. I'll just repeat it if you're joining that link now. If you feel confident with the changes that are happening and affecting you, if you're not feeling that confident about the changes and you don't know what's coming, and the last one, I do not feel confident at all. I have no idea what the French legislation means for my business. I'll give you time to respond. In the meantime, John, are you watching any of the World Cup or not?
Messi's doing great things. Huh?
No. It's a great time.
Just good to mention as well, if you have any outstanding questions related to invoicing in general, related to Invopop, to Novutech, to NetSuite, feel free to ask them in the chat. We have people as well who will be answering throughout the webinar, and at the end of it, we'll also be able to answer a few of those live with you.
And I'll actually answer one of the first questions regarding if this session will only be focusing on France. No, it isn't solely focused on France. It does have a little bit more of the weight of the webinar, since it is an upcoming legislation change, but it's not solely focused on France.
You will quickly understand that we need to use one example to show the solution, but the solution is really similar in all countries. We do cover Germany, so don't you worry about it. The solution is generic, and of course, if you want to have a more focused session, feel free to contact us after this webinar, and we'll be happily doing a demo focused on Germany if you wish. But generally speaking, it's going to be quite similar to what we're going to present today.
And unfortunately, in 45 minutes, it doesn't give us enough time to go into all the details of not even the French legislation alone. So hopefully we can give a great overall picture on some of the changes that are coming our way, how we're taking on those changes via our connector with Novutech and NetSuite, as well as some of the particularities that you need to keep in mind with these changes moving forward. But like I said, hopefully you can use the chat section to interact with us. We can also grab some of those questions for a Q&A later, so please be as active as possible. So let me go ahead and begin. I've given everyone some time to join us. Hopefully you're all here. Like I said, my name is Aaron Niemeyer. I'm on the Novutech side. I'm on the Invopop side of today's webinar. My role is helping international companies navigate these e-invoicing projects on a global stage. And Invopop is a provider of e-invoicing services in over 30 territories. So we're well experienced, well versed on not just Europe, not just the French regulation, not just the German e-invoicing mandate coming into effect next year, but on a global sphere as well. And that's important because that's exactly why we're having that webinar today. Why is this becoming a bigger issue for finance teams across the globe? And it really does boil down to the digitization of payments, if you want to simplify the terminology there. As you're seeing on our screen, there's over 50 countries that are requiring e-invoicing or some type of mandate in the upcoming years. And that's actually following a trend of years before that started implementing these mandates for B2G transactions, specifically in Europe many years ago. And now it's overflowing into the B2B and even the B2C sector. So some of the examples of countries that you're seeing on my screen for 2025, 2026, 2027, but key years being this year, 2026, with France, Belgium, Poland, Greece, among some of those big markets, as well as next year with the AR flow being an obligation for Germany, as well as Spain and Estonia coming in strong. And this is, like I said, becoming more of a headache for the financial teams because e-invoicing is becoming something that is not good to have. It's not just an improvement of your process. It's a must-have feature for the different tax authorities that you're doing business in. And this is actually, statistically, looking at the numbers, we have over 30 countries with e-invoicing mandates, and 22% of global invoicing volumes is now being done in an electronic manner. So it's not just a good practice moving forward, but a necessary practice. And why is it a good practice to have? I would love to focus on that third vertical on the right-hand side of the screen, which is just 100% reliable parsing. Right now, we're working with structured data, opposed to working with PDFs, going through an OCR tool, extracting that, having some misalignments, having some type of manual work, etc. The reliability of that data was not as strong as working with structured formats. In that, again, I just wanted to stop and explain that very briefly. What is an electronic invoice? We're going to separate that into a digital invoice, something that is digital, like a PDF, but it is not composed of a structured format, structured data, as is the electronic invoice. So the PDF is typically shared via email. It does require some type of human process or OCR to extract that data and put it into your ERP, your billing tool, accounting tools, etc. Whereas electronic invoicing relies on that structured data, whether that's an XML or a JSON. And that is, again, that becomes part of the headache because you have to map your data from your ERP into the agreed format of that country. And every country has their own format, has their own schema. But that electronic invoicing data is much more reliable. It is machine readable. It doesn't depend on some form of OCR extraction or manual input. And the last and key aspect there is it's typically shared over a specific protocol, some type of network that also runs validations to improve the correctness, the accuracy of that data. In the case of Germany, that's the one exception because email is still a valid form of network, but it's the rare exception that we'll find in an overall pretty well-defined network of issuing. Just for visual purposes, I wanted to show what that will actually translate for you. On the left-hand side, you're seeing a traditional PDF and its data. On the right-hand side, you're actually seeing an XML in the UBL format, one that you could commonly use or see in France or Belgium. And this is actually the legal document that you're going to have to archive for legal purposes, for audit purposes, etc. That will be your new standard. This is machine readable, as I pointed out, and that can be translated very quickly and generated a PDF from that data, as we'll see later on. But that is actually your electronic invoice. That is the real document that you must archive. Moving on with our Novutech and Invopop adapter or connector, I did want to stop and just share a little bit more about this alliance, this partnership that we've established. Novutech has taken the responsibility of building a connector to allow their NetSuite clients interact and have an interface to interact with Invopop, and that is a bi-directional syncing of invoice data, credit note data, on the both AR and the AP flow. And with that one connector, with that one synchronization, what this allows is that you will have an open, let's say, myriad of options to connect to the different territories where we are compliant in. So that really helps you enter 30 plus local invoice requirements that we're capable of covering at the moment, and many more that are being added on our roadmap as these e-invoicing mandates are coming into effect, they're going into live stages, etc. So what this means on a very practical level is that now you can create with your invoice data from NetSuite, you'll be able to generate the legal documents in Germany, for example, that ex rechnum that you're seeing there, that word there describing the format in Germany. SDI, for example, is the tax portal in Italy. A UBL for France or Belgium. CFDI for Mexico. The PEPL network, establishing connections with your clients to issue those invoices to them, etc. There's also transactions or flows, such as the SII in Spain, even the SAFTI protocols in Portugal, or fiscalization of the invoice, so generating QR codes on the invoice itself, for example, in Portugal. That would be an example of that. And as it points there at the end, this is a complete flow, meaning the moment it leaves NetSuite, it will always find its destination, regardless of the protocol. That might come through a tax portal, it might come through PEPL, or even an email being issued in the case of Germany. Now, this is all done, and I also wanted to take some time to technically explain this, and hopefully we can bounce off some ideas with John on this one, because this is all done thanks to our GOBL, which is Go Business Language. That is what the acronym stands for. And it is an open source JSON standard that already includes all of the compliance regulation needs of the EN 16831 legislation, meaning all of the invoice different specs that are needed for different scenarios within the European Union. This means that with that one document, we can then translate that to the specific document types in those countries, like we saw with the case of Germany with the ex rechnum. And it just simplifies that entire integration process enormously from the get-go. And I wanted to bounce some ideas off of John because he has much more real experience with that integration process with their clients. And I wanted to ask you, how have you found that integration, that generation of the valid data for the invoice generation using GOBL in different territories? How has that simplified your life and the life of your clients?
Yeah, well, definitely that's one of the main differentiation from Invopop, and that's also one of the main arguments for our partnerships and why it's been working on our side super well. We've built the standard, the overall structure of integrating Invopop to NetSuite. And now the biggest advantage is that we can enhance the template with different countries relatively easily. So we can embark new countries really easily. We're currently live in Belgium. We're currently live in France. We're currently live in Germany, Spain, Greece as well. And depending on the demand, we can quickly develop new countries. So that's really the greatest advantage. What this means from NetSuite point of view is that no matter the country, we'll definitely build the same structure, of course, with some different information regarding some different countries. But that's the real advantage, is that from NetSuite, you'll have the same pack, the same bundle working for different countries, which is much different than what we see currently. For example, with the Italian pack, we know really well in NetSuite that is different from the Spanish pack, that are completely different scripts, completely different workflows, custom records, etc., which at some point, for NetSuite users who have subsidiaries in several countries, can be quite heavy. So definitely a great advantage to have that GOBL document.
And can you speak a bit more on also the timelines, how those have been improved because of the simplification, because of this facilitating aspect of this?
Yeah, definitely. So every time we embark a new country, we see the different requirements, and it's about enhancing the template on our side, maybe sometimes sourcing a bit more information, sometimes a bit less, but it's just about enhancing the generic template, of course, template that can be customized on customers' accounts as well. So yeah, it's about, generally now, it's when you embark a new country, it's just about learning about the system in the country and making quite a few tests on our side to make sure we cover all the scenarios. and then make a webinar like we're going to do with Germany, like we do for France. And yeah, embark new customers. And for already live customers, which is the case for all the Belgian customers that do have a subsidiary in France, now they're just going to have to add a new country, which is just going to be more set up in NetSuite, but it's going to be quite fast and relatively easy for the teams as well, because the system is the same. In the case, of course, when the teams are the same, but yeah, it's really a great advantage.
Yeah, and I can actually speak to that point very quickly, simply because I joined Invopop at the beginning of the year, and this partnership had already been established previous to that, right? But I remember reading and learning about all the clients that had already been onboarded in such a very brief time for Belgium. And I believe it was in the 30s, 40s in number of projects, number of clients that were onboarded in a relatively very short window.
Yeah, definitely. Our onboarding process, of course, is now been done and redone again on several customers. So we know it quite well. We've implemented a process that is documented on our side, and we generally take between 4 to 6 weeks from the contract signature to really going live in production. And between that time, we do the whole setup. We do the whole testing, training, UAT sessions in Sandbox, because of course, not only NetSuite, but Invopop and the invoicing networks do have a testing environment, which is really practical. So we do all of that, and along with some customizations on template level in those 4 to 6 weeks, which is really convenient, and customers are generally happy with that timeline. Of course, if you're getting interested now in the French e-invoicing, I do suggest to start to move on as it's coming closer and closer, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say that part of the panic, I suppose, in these projects are those mandates coming into effect very quickly. And I guess we're going to briefly touch on that. That's a great segue. Thank you for that, John. About the French. We're going to focus today on the French legislation as a point of, like John said, as a point of reference to then give you some examples in a clear demo. But I wanted to show, kind of transitioning into the French legislation, I wanted to share this slide, which is coming directly from the DGFIP's material. And it just shows the flow of information and how they envision, first of all, the different statuses, meaning the different updates on that invoice, which is a very particular aspect of the French regulation, but also its complexity, right? It doesn't necessarily leave the reader with a clear understanding of what's going on. So hopefully I broke that down into 3 different slides, and I want to explain them in detail. So this is my interpretation of the previous slide from the DGFIP. Hopefully it's a little bit more easily consumed by the audience. But what it is describing is what we're typically calling a Y format, a Y diagram, in which the information is going to flow to basically 3 different parties with 2 PAs, 1 PA for each client and supplier, right? So what you're seeing here is a supplier issuing an invoice to a buyer, someone who has purchased a service or a good, and it's going to first leave, that invoice data is going to leave the ERP, leave the billing tool, and go straight into the PA of the supplier. So a PA is a certified provider. You must issue, moving forward, an invoice via a certified provider such as Invopop or any other. Sending that PDF, that email, is no longer going to be a valid format for national B2B transactions. And once the PA receives that data, it's going to transform it into that XML, that UBL, cross-industry Facturex, whichever format is desired. And that invoice report or invoice data report is also going to be shared at the same time to the PPF, to the DGFIP. Then the PA of the buyer is going to receive that XML, transform it into a readable PDF if they wish, or any other structured format. In our case, that would be like a JSON, and send it to the ERP of the issuer. And now here comes the wrinkle. Here comes the difficulty of the French system. Now we're also going to add status updates that the buyer can add to the invoice itself. And this is really where it's adding complexity to the system, because many ERPs were not designed to add statuses, to add a life cycle to an invoice. So now when you receive an invoice, you have different categories, different statuses that you can select on that invoice to, for example, refuse it. If you reject that invoice, then it will bounce back to the PA, and that data information is also shared to the PPF. So now they know that invoice has been completely rejected, has been refused. If there's some type of litigation, meaning it is maybe pending approval, there's incorrect information that needs to be fixed, etc., that information can also be transferred back to the PA and to the supplier for a completion, for its fixing, right, of that invoice data. And again, that invoice data or those status updates are shared with the PPF for its final booking of that invoice. So this is hopefully giving a better, clear image of the different flows expected to happen in France with national B2B invoicing. And it's what's creating a little bit of the headache from a technical point of view for many of our clients, because of those adaptations that need to happen in NetSuite, which is what we're going to see now. So John, maybe perhaps you can share your screen and walk us through what a demo would look like from an Invopop and Novutech integration.
Yes, definitely. So maybe we'll start with the Invopop platform really quickly. Good to mention that both the connector and the Invopop platform have been built so that the users can stay in NetSuite and do not have to perform their daily tasks in Invopop. So the aim is really to simplify the processes of the people and change them as little as possible. So here I'm just going to show you a quick overview of what it does. Of course, you will be given access if you choose to contract with Invopop and ourselves, but that's the overall idea. So this is the Invopop platform. You have your environments here. You have the sales transactions, the purchase transactions. Here you have the different subsidiaries you can register, and then we'll go into the workflows as well. So if we take a transaction, this is a French example. You have a user-friendly view here where you can see the overall transaction with the header values, some tax information, supplier information, customer information, and then you end up with the line information. So really, really standard, nothing really special here. But the biggest advantage, as we mentioned earlier, is this Gobble document here. So this is the exact document we provide to Invopop, and then it gets enhanced with some logic on Invopop side. So that's really the biggest advantage, no matter the country. For example, if I take a Belgian example, exactly the same. We have the JSON view as well. So really, really the same elements. Of course, sometimes some little different information, but the overall structure is exactly the same. Then what happens from NetSuite, we'll send the document here to Invopop, which will create the transaction. And then in the same flow, we'll also run a certain workflow on the transaction, which is basically going to determine which country and which adaptations needs to be performed on that transaction so that it's compliant for the country. And of course, then it will include as well the sending part. So for this example, we got the UBL created. So this is the real XML that is sent to the supplier, the customer's PA, and to the fiscal authority as well. This is the PDF that is sent along the way as well. Then there's some statuses as well for France that are created. And you can see the statuses. This one is sent and completed. This means that it went through the whole flow. So if we go back to NetSuite, we'll make it happen live. First thing to mention is that the only thing you will need to really do is to maintain some invoicing information from your customers, mainly being the routing data. So these two fields here are basically going to be the new email address of your customers. So basically upon registering into the invoicing world, you have to give a certain routing number that your suppliers are going to use to issue invoices to you, and that you're going to use to issue to your customers. So this is the data you need to maintain. We've built a pack that will help you do that based on the standard VAT number of the customer. So nothing really too fancy here, but the aim is that we can help you in a generic way to fill all the customer's information you would need, and then you will just sometimes need to manually check it in case the automated process wasn't certain of the routing number. This can be because, of course, as you can see, some can have several routing numbers, so automatically we wouldn't know which one to route it to. So yeah, normally a good proportion of the customers would be automatically set, and once they are checked with the use e-invoicing checkbox, every credit memo and invoice will generate an e-invoice for that customer. Good to mention, we support cash sales as well.
John, a quick question here just to take it to a practical, scenario. Typically, when these projects get launched, is it true that perhaps the cleaning of the invoice data is one of the biggest challenges that you start with, not just the invoicing flow itself?
Yeah, that's definitely what we recommend before kicking off the project. The idea is to clean up the master data. The main fields that are needed is a company name, an email address, a postal address, and then the VAT number, basically, and we'll be able to source the e-invoicing information. And that's mainly it. But of course, without those information, you're gonna get into some trouble. You're gonna get into some issues. So the best is to clean that master data beforehand, and this will allow you to embark on the invoicing much easily. So now that I have a customer that is set up, I'm going to make a copy of this transaction. I created an example transaction, nothing too fancy here. We just have, I think on this one, I just made it one line so that it's not too heavy, but of course we would support multiple lines. We would support discount lines, subtotal lines, description lines as well. So no worries on that end. So nothing fancy here. If I was the end user, nothing special to do. I can just save the transaction, and if it was generated via CSV, via integration, via the UI or via other scripts, all the same, if the customer is set up, it will generate an e-invoice.
And John, they're asking in the comments that where do we get those routing numbers? How do we decide these numbers to issue to that person? Can you maybe give some context on some of the examples or some of the networks and how to derive that information?
So if I go back from the customer in France, for example, you can see that we have the VAT number. If we remove the 4 digits, we have the Sirène number in France, and if we look here. Generally, it's the Sirène. So in France, it's going to be this one. Just that every company in France, so that's particular to France, but every company in France have the opportunity to register multiple inboxes, multiple processes, or multiple departments, for example, which will have different routing numbers. They will all have the Sirène number like this one, and then it's up to you to do an underscore and then basically whatever they want. So this is why there needs to be a manual process sometimes, because everyone is open to register basically any inbox possible. In Belgium, for instance, it can be the company number, so it would be the VAT number without the 2 letters at the beginning, or it can be the whole VAT number, for instance. In Spain, for example, for Verifactu, there's not even a concept of routing. So it's mainly the ones using the PEPL network that do need to have a routing number.
So basically, it will change from country to country on how this process will be established. But number 2, just to kind of calm the nerves, I suppose, of anybody listening, it's not more difficult than perhaps asking for the right billing address or billing email to a company, which is the current practice today. Is that correct?
What we see in France is that big companies are already asking for all of their customers e-invoicing routing data, or sometimes the customers are themselves providing their invoice data to their suppliers. And of course, you can always access as well the PEPL directory manually, where you can look up any company as well. Just be careful. There is a test environment and there is a true environment. So this is the true one. This is one of the sources, but I'll spare the details. In France, there can be another source, but this is one of the sources we use.
And just to highlight one small change moving forward is that the moment you have the right routing number, it is a much more secure line of communication than perhaps just winging it on an email address in the past, correct? So this is, even though it might come with a transition period of adaptation and some frustration, etc., it is a step in the right direction. Do we say that assumption is correct?
Yeah. What we've seen on projects is, in general, it is a bit of a pain at the beginning. E-invoicing was imposed in all the countries we support. So, of course, it's never a joy to implement it. But it's true that once you've gone through the first weeks, the first months, it's really it gets much easier. This is generally a one-time setup. People generally do not change their invoicing data. It can happen, of course, sometimes, but generally they don't. That does not happen. But it's a bit of a pain at the very beginning. Our pack does help quite a lot in helping to furnish the e-invoicing information. But at some point it will get really easy. And of course, the structured format helps a lot also in the AP side. So here, if I take back the path of my user, the invoice was generated. So this is a secondary status we added. This is the e-invoicing status, and this is the, of course, standard NetSuite status that you already know. This means that we have an invoice that was generated. I'm going to just show you what happened for demonstration purposes. But the user would end up here, and then I'll catch up right after to what happens next. So on the e-invoice level, what we have, the link to the transaction, which allows us to have a bunch of reporting, some reporting that we do provide here with quite a few safe searches. We provide the invoice is also populated with the actual Gobble document that will be sent to Invopop. We have the PDF that will be sent along. So you have the opportunity in the invoicing world to attach a PDF within the e-invoice. Here, it's just the manual action of doing this. This is the standard we provide. And if you want a custom PDF, you could just attach it here and it will take it into account. What else do we have? This one is an outgoing invoice generated status, which is replicated every time here. And we have the template I was talking about. This is the template that's used to create the Gobble document. This is something we provide by standard, but we can also always enhance it on your account if needed. If you use some custom fields, if you want to incorporate further information, we can always enhance that template, where we can source information from the transaction, from the subsidiary, from the customer record, from quite a few places actually. So that's quite practical as well. It's rather technical, but it's important to know. And then finally, we have the two entities as well. So if I take back the path of my end user, here he has two options. Either he leaves it in generated, and this e-invoice will be picked up by an automated process to send them. So this means that every night, for example, the process can run and pick up all the invoices generated during the day, as long as they're in open status or at least not in pending approval, of course. And it will pick them up and send them all at once to Invopop, and then pick up all the statuses back in NetSuite. Or second option, which we built for demonstration purpose as well, but it can be a manual action of sending, which can be used as well in an urgent e-invoice, for instance, or a transaction that was in error, and you populated the missing field, you edit saved, and you can resend it manually. So if I click on this button here, we have a new tab that opens up. I'm going to show you what happens on the Invopop side. Be reassured, this is our development environment. This is why we have a bunch of errors. We're testing quite a few elements. So if you see here, the transaction is created, the workflow is directly triggered, and the statuses are updated quite fast. If I refresh again, at some point it will go into completed normally. There we go. And it will be stored here in the sales folder. So that's as fast as it went. If I open it again, we have all the elements. Again, the PDF, we have the UBL that was generated, we have the statuses, we have the exact same transaction here. If I go back to the tab that opened up, we have the successful message. If there was an error, of course, the error would be populated here. Some errors, examples are missing fields, missing information, or invalid routing information for e-invoice. In that case, what would happen? You would just have to edit the invoice, add the missing information, save it, it will regenerate it, and then you can directly resend it manually. Here we can see that the status was updated to send.
And just to quickly butt in there very, very briefly, Invopop does a fantastic job, in my opinion, of populating the errors, the reason why those errors are occurring. And that is information that also feeds back into NetSuite. So the user will always know exactly where that error lies, and even how to fix it in most cases, because we're giving a response of what needs to happen for that validation to run successfully.
Exactly.
So at no point are you lost or confused if it's just giving me an error. I don't know what error it is, but we actually pinpoint that specific error and how to fix it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And if it was in the automated process or in the manual one, the e-invoice as well would be populated with an error status, and the error message would be here, determining what the issue was. So yeah, you can quickly find it as well. Again, in the safe searches we provide, you have a list of the outbound errors. Again, it's for development accounts. Don't you worry, there is a lot of them, but this is a list of errors that your users can quickly find and fix manually, and then resend it. It's not a big deal. So this is it basically for the outbound process. I'm going to try and quickly go through the AP process so that we can still have some information for the Q&A, some time for the Q&A. If I go back to Invopop, whenever you are registered on Invopop and you receive an incoming e-invoice, Invopop is, of course, your invoice supplier, so they will route it directly to you. So this is an incoming transaction, and then through a workflow that will run automatically, it will be sent directly to NetSuite. So once we jump back into NetSuite, if I open this, we have, let me show you from where I accessed. It's just a safe search here, which will basically be the inbox. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we have more information. What got created actually is an e-invoice, again, same record, this time on incoming, and all the same information. If I go back to the safe search here, we have the JSON file that was provided. You have the opportunity to view it through a template as well. So this is a more user-friendly view, of course. You also have the possibility to view the PDF that was sent along with the e-invoice. So this is a really important feature for accountants and the process teams. And they're generally really happy about having the PDF. Then we link it as well to the different entities, vendor and subsidiary. We can also directly create a vendor from here if the vendor doesn't exist yet. So this is a pre-populated vendor record where you have all the information here. It was not a good example because it didn't have the address, but all the information will be pre-populated here, and then you can just save it, and it will be automatically linked to the e-invoice as well. And then you have all the different options to either refuse it. So that's for the French specificity. You have a bunch of codes provided, and then a rejection text. Once you confirm the refusal, it will be sent to Invopop and then to your supplier with the reason, and the supplier can maybe change something and resubmit it, and we'll receive it again on the same one. What else do you have? We have the bill directly. So this is the scenario where you really know the supplier. You know that he frequently sends some e-invoices that are generally look-alike and do not need so much manual process. So if you click directly, it will directly go into a vendor bill. And last possibility is to go to the process bill, where you will be led to the draft bill, which is a custom transaction we created. So this is really an intermediate record between the e-invoice and the vendor bill. For several reasons. This record here doesn't have any accounting impact on your NetSuite account. Second reason, it is very complicated to create directly a vendor bill in different accounts, because the vendor bill is generally a really customized record, which has a bunch of mandatory fields, a bunch of processes linked to it, automations, etc., etc. Last element, and one of the main ones as well, is this allows us to add 2 layers of templates, one before the draft bill and one after the draft bill, which will allow a bunch of automations as well to pre-fill some information. So once we are on the draft bill, we have the view PDF or view invoice, so really practical as well. We have pre-populated information where the user can change anything he wants. Then last important elements, once you go into e-invoicing, the amounts mentioned on the e-invoice are the source of truth. So this is why we report them both on header level and on line level, so that the users can quickly flag through safe searches again that are provided the transaction that have discrepancies between the e-invoice and the actual transaction that will be booked into your account. Once everything is clear here, I can decide to process it into a vendor bill. and will be redirected to the created vendor bill in the end. So yeah, we're bringing quite a few updates. We have a line defaulting system in development as we speak. So yeah, we bring quite a lot of upgrades along the weeks. So yeah, there you go. The bill is created. We have the pending approval status where your approval process will kick in, and we have the full processed e-invoice. We have all the information. Again, we have the e-invoice amounts, both on header and line level, and again, the PDF and the e-invoice. So that's basically it for the AP. That was really summed up. We could relate about a bunch of different aspects, but I'll leave it here so that we can have some minutes for the Q&A as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. First of all, John, thank you for squeezing all of that into the 12 minutes I think that I gave you. Much appreciated. Hopefully everybody watching has a better understanding of this connector, how it works, how all the different functionalities come and join hand in hand, and how with that one integration you're really able to attack different countries that were present. Now we are going to go into our Q&A section, and we have about 5 minutes. The first one I'm going to read is a question for I guess both of us. Is this e-invoicing happening across all business types in France, B2B and B2C? That will depend on a country by country status, meaning please go to the country that you're questioning to better understand. In the case of France, it will be B2G, B2B scenarios within the nation, within France, although there is an e-reporting section for international or B2C transactions. So in a scope of applicability, all scenarios will fall into some type of reform, tax reform. But again, this also comes at a phased approach with large taxpayers in phase 1 in September 2026 and a second phase 2 in September 2027. The next question I have here, sorry,
we have the question from Pura that's displaying here on screen. Where do we get these routing numbers from, and do we mutually just decide a number with all our customers? Basically, the countries provide a certain structure early on. When you register your subsidiary, the actual standard is provided, although you could customize it, but there is a standard used by all of the countries. And we personally, on our side from Novutech, we source it from the PEPL network, as mentioned previously. Although for France, we will also source it from the annuaire, which is the official place where we should source it from in France. So we have 2 sources for France, but all the other ones will be from the PEPL network. So next question, is this invoicing happening across all business types? So this one we just answered by Aaron. So yeah, depending on the country, most business types will be covered, also e-reporting as well.
Next one is there any risk or concern with having 2 different providers, one for inbound transaction, one for outbound transactions? The short answer is no. There's a free flexibility of choosing more than one PA, more than one provider. This is also the case in other territories, for example, in Belgium, where you can choose different providers. Most companies tend to choose the same one, but larger scale companies that might have a larger tech stack, there are very many examples of those companies choosing several PAs for their different flows. So not an issue, not a concern. Definitely within the rights of the company to have more than one PA. So something that we're seeing quite frequently in the market. Yeah.
So related to additional information needed for France as the type of invoice use case, how is this managed? So for France, of course, it's more complex because they implemented both e-invoicing and e-reporting at the same time. So there's different scenarios. You could have a B2B transaction, which will go directly through the e-invoicing flow. You can have a B2B international transaction, which will only go through the e-reporting flow. And finally, you have B2C transactions that will need to go in as well, that will also go in the e-reporting flow. So what will happen from NetSuite, we will take the transaction information, send it to Invopop, and then trigger the right workflow. So basically, if it's B2B, if it's e-reporting, it will just get stored in Invopop in a report that will be sent according to your VAT registration regime. It will be sent to the authorities. So I think this is more of a NetSuite one. I saw it coming. Does the system choose correct cost center expense accounts and automatically based on rules? So we basically reproduce the NetSuite logic. So of course, if your vendors have default expense accounts set, it will use those. As mentioned, we're developing our default line rules. So this means that you can have some matrix of vendor item or vendor item, and based on the information you will fill in on the first e-invoice from that vendor, and that with that item you can pre-fill quite a few information. If there's no matrix for that item, NetSuite will propose you to store one, and then all the future coming ones will be pre-populated with all those information. Apart from that, we support also 2 to 3-way matching. So of course, if there is a PO, we will transform it into a bill. We can also link unmatched lines manually. We can also copy them automatically. So yeah, there's quite a few possibilities. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out, and we can go through different scenarios as well, because it can get pretty complex.
Perfect, John. That will be our last question for today. But I wanted to kind of piggyback off of that last sentence that John said, that there's so much more to unpack, right? We can't unpack everything in just 45 minutes, especially we can't go into great depths at the legislation of each country. So that's why we left our emails there. My name is Aaron. John is on the Novutech side. Please save those emails. Reach out to us if you have follow-up questions, if you want to organize a specific demo for your needs, better understand what we can do for you in different territories. And before we go, I just wanted to share some of the current jurisdictions that are currently supported by Invopop. You have a long list of those, so feel free to screenshot that list of countries, as well as more countries that are covered and more that will be covered in the future by Invopop. So if you have multinational operations, if you are looking for an e-invoicing provider that can seamlessly integrate with your NetSuite environment, please reach out to John on the Novutech team, reach out to myself on the Invopop side, because we would be happy to take on those conversations and see if we're the right supplier, the right service provider for your specific needs. With that, I'll conclude. John, I don't know if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share.
No, thank you everyone for being present here. Thank you for listening through this webinar. It will be recorded. We'll publish it internally on our website, on YouTube, so you can access it afterwards. We have also other examples available, and again, as mentioned, we're going to have a next one mentioned in line in the roadmap for Germany in the future. So yeah, feel free to reach out. We can do some personalized demos as well, discuss all of your different scenarios. So feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to help. But thank you, Aaron, for today, and I think we can leave it here. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we wish you a very pleasant day.
Thank you very much. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.